If you won't listen to me when I make an appeal for the Negroes because you have no concern for the Negroes, listen to me when I make an appeal for America.
All right, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be kind of heavy. I'll go ahead and warn you about that in advance. It's a video that was put together, a compilation by David Hoffman, and it centers around different black voices on politics, the American climate back in the 60s, right? But the reason I'm sharing this with everybody is that I want you to pay attention and notice some marked differences between then and now. And I think if we dive into this and really explore it, it'll help us better understand some of the key differences between then and now, and even understand the mindset of a lot of black folks when it comes to politics in America. And I really think it's worth pulling apart. So again, I warn you, it's heavy. I don't think, it was emotional for me, and I don't think I laughed at all during this, which is unusual. But let's go ahead and get into this and pick this thing apart.
We're not interested in interracial housing. We don't want your neighborhood. We want ours to be just as good. See, we don't want a store in your neighborhood. We don't want you coming in our neighborhood and open up stores and exploiting us and then go home and throw a bomb if we move next door out in the suburbs. We don't want your schools, but we want our schools to be the highest and the best possible for our black progeny. See, what people don't understand, we are saying and we're not asking. See, the die is cast, as I said, we're not asking, we're saying this is the way it's going to be.
Now, I want to interject on or comment on something that he just said. Notice he was talking about different businesses and aspects of what would have been considered the black community. And he said something about our own stores, right? Now, this is the 60s. If you fast forward to now and you look at the neighborhoods that could be considered black neighborhoods, right? What you'll find is we used to say a liquor store on every corner, a church on every corner, right? The liquor store thing, not so much, at least not in my area anyway. When I go over back to where my parents grew up in that neighborhood, don't really see that, but I do see a church on every corner. But also these stores, these corner stores, literally every corner store in the quote unquote black neighborhood, there's not one, at least not one that I can think of, that is black owned and or black operated. Every one of these stores is operated by someone ethnically not black and not white. For the most part, these are recent immigrants, probably second generation Americans that came over to the United States and established these businesses in the black neighborhood. So it's interesting when he says our own stores. That's what stands out in my mind. Another thing I want to point out is, if you listen to him speak, very articulate, and some of the other folks in this video, highly articulate. And it makes you wonder what happened over time, where once upon a time, it was almost pushed in the black community to step your game up, to become more articulate, to demonstrate intelligence. And then somewhere along the way, it became fashionable, cool, to not be that way. In fact, if you were that way, then somehow, some way, you were acting white. But let's continue.
Lady from Winnetka has stated that she saw during the marches which she participated in people who were full of fear and hatred. Mr. Lucas has said that the American Negro is either going to be free or he's going to be dead.
Now, you get this straight. You can kill all the black folks you want to, baby, but you will not kill the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought in every one of your damn lousy wars, baby, and you give us nothing. Now, the war is going to be here Because we're going to be free. Now, you kill all you want to, but we kill too.
Now, before we move on, let's cover this last portion of what he's talking about. Killing black folks, right? Obviously, racial crimes, or the crimes that can be considered based strictly off of race, crimes against black people, presumably by white people, were more prevalent in the United States at that time. This is the 60s, right? A lot of racial strife, a lot of that. But fast forward to now. Let's go to 2025. Do you see that? When have you seen that? When has that ever been the case? You see, we can look at images and photos of that time frame, and we can see that how strong the feelings and the emotions were, and if there was hatred against black folks, how obvious that was in many cases. Some folks said it was based on hate. Some folks say it was based on pride in their nationality, who they were. But it was obvious, markedly obvious. Not so much nowadays. When he talked about dying, this is what I was meaning when I say the programming in the modern day youth. So now you have a lot of people who try to carry that same energy, try to make those type of statements, but they don't really understand what the people who said them first was going through or were going through at that time. And they don't understand the gravity of what they say, like going to war, right? A race war in the United States right now, if the black population wanted to go to war, it wouldn't last very long, right? It would it would quickly degrade into some type of guerrilla warfare. And I say that because small arms tactics, that would be the only way to even extend it. It would be shut down pretty quick. And it wouldn't be, the people who shut it down wouldn't be divided upon by race. Everybody's not going to pick a side based on race. You would have the idiots who wanted to go to war based on race against the rest of the United States of America. Wouldn't last long, not long at all.
I don't agree with the moderator nor Reverend Robinson that we want some kind of agreement. We want agreement by which we can live or die. You choose. If you won't listen to me when I make an appeal for the Negroes because you have no concern for the Negroes, listen to me when I make an appeal for America. You claim you love America. Well, we love America. But you are driving us back and you are making a Samson out of us, and we are going to pull down the pillar. Should you try to pretend that I'm crazy because I want America to be saved? And then you think we have no right to ask for something? Is it too much to ask you to grant us human dignity? Should we be put down and shot to death for this request? If so, you can aim your guns. What the hell do you think we care about dying if you're going to deny us the right to live?
Now, before we go on, I got to give you my take on this. Two key things that he said there. When he said, "Where we love America," how often do you hear that now? In 2025, if you hear someone who is black and they have a grievance to air and they get passionate, they become passionate about what they're saying, how often do you hear them say, "We love America. I love America"? Key difference between the two eras, right? In the 60s, you had people fighting to be American, to be considered 100% Americans, to either integrate or receive the benefits of being an American because they understood what that meant. Now, you have people who want to be something other than that, or they want America to be something other than what it is, because they don't understand what it means. It's a key difference. It's weird because it's like this what's the word I'm thinking of? Mutation, right? They took something and changed it into something else, and the people who promote it don't really understand what that means, what they're what they're really asking for. At one time, folks understood what it meant to be a part of the American dream. Now it's almost as if that dream's been lost. And no one really understands what that dream really is and what it really stands for. And then the second point, and this is huge, he talked about dignity. See, dignity was important around that time. They expected and desired for others to treat them with dignity. And interestingly enough, many of the people who wanted dignity expressed that in part by acting in a dignified manner, by showing dignity, to having dignity, understanding that it starts with me first. So how can you act in an undignified manner and then demand dignity? In the 60s, one might argue that a person might have been denied dignity based upon the color of his skin. And, that was secondary to the way that they acted, the way that they carried themselves in public. Now, right, a person who is denied dignity or not looked upon with respect, it's because the way they carry themselves first. It's been flipped around. You don't hear people say that they dislike somebody strictly because of the color of their skin, in so much as you hear people say that they dislike or don't respect somebody by the way they act, or at least what they see. And now you have to get into, well, why do they see that? It's the media. It's the entertainment industry. These are the images that are broadcast everywhere. And if you don't know someone personally, or you haven't spent much time around somebody, then that's what you have to go off of. I literally went to basic training when I went in the military and Army. My bunkmate, we had bunk beds, right? He had only seen in the flesh maybe 3 or 4 black people in his life. He was from Virginia or West Virginia. And we ended up being pretty tight. But it's interesting. Now imagine being in that situation. All you see are these images flashing across your screen, this, that, and the other. But when these images that are not dignified are broadcast and put forth, then obviously folks are going to develop some type of perception based on what they see. Now, you can't blame it just on the media, and you can't blame it just on social media and entertainment industry, things of that nature, because you have to get that image from somewhere. So you would think that the folks who are being portrayed this way would take actions to prevent themselves by being portrayed this way, by not acting in that manner, so that someone could capture it on film and broadcast it around the world. What say you? Let's continue.
This revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First you tell us that it is manly to keep your word. All right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all that the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well then, show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well then, stick to your word. And let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand.
Now, before we go on here, this is what I found so interesting about this young man. For one, he's articulate, again, very well spoken, right? Look at the way he's dressed. Look at how he presents himself, right? Now, aside from anything that's being said, just look at the image that he's putting forth, and then listen to what he said about being a man. When is the last time you've heard someone speak in this manner about what manhood really is? It's no wonder why there's so much confusion about masculinity. This is a young man who understands the fundamentals or the basics of manhood and can speak about them articulately. You don't really see that anymore. And it's not like this, right? It's centered around all these other arguments. But if you were able to take something and elevate that argument, raise that vibration to the extent where you can have a set of standards that you're weighing something against, you bring validity to your argument. Whether somebody agrees with you or not, at least they can respect what's being said. I like the way the young man carries himself. We may not agree, but we're from two different eras. His life experience is different than mine.
You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you. And if that's what you're afraid of us, then tell us that's just what you're afraid of. But don't keep hiding it from us and holding this up to us, and every time we ask you for something, you give us a little bit of something, and it's all tokenism. We don't want tokenism. And there are most black men in this world that don't want charity.
We don't want tokenism. We don't want charity. That sounds a lot like DEI, doesn't it?
And yet still every time we ask you for something, you give us a little piece, a little piece. You're playing games with us. We're not children. We're big men. I've seen my father have to put up with all kinds of stuff. He was a big man. He raised a family. He went down south, and he had to go around to the back door with his wife. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for any favors. All we want is what's ours.
Now, here, he's talking from a place of experience or near experience. In other words, he's talking about his father. If somebody were saying the same thing right now, they would either be saying my grandfather or my great-grandfather, one of the two. And you see how it gets further and further away from the source. When this was actually happening, at the rate that it was happening, when it was obvious, he was, if not there, he's one generation removed from a lot of this racism, right? The youth today, someone his age, they can't pull from that. They're further removed from that situation. Now you're talking about my grandfather or my great-grandfather, right? So here's the question. At what point does it become either, I can't say irrelevant, but less relevant to the extent or to the point that it can no longer be the centerpiece of your argument? When does that happen? Because if we keep trending the way we're trending now, we keep wanting to use the same thing as an excuse, right? Like I said in another video, it was the past. It will always be the past. You'll have people run around saying, my ancestors in America, my great-great-great-grandfather, my great-great-great-grandmother. At what point does it stop? At what point does it stop making sense? I would argue that it stops making sense now. What grievances are you close to? What have you experienced in your life? Argue that. What did your father go through that you could maybe argue that? But what was done to them that is still being done to you? What have they been prevented from that you're still being prevented from having or doing? What is it? Answer that question and you move yourself closer to mental freedom. Because if you're trying to talk like this young man right here, you're a captive. You're a prisoner. You are mentally enslaved.
Now, there are many black veterans who are coming back, and they're mad. They're angry. Do you think that they're going to sit down through this? Our fathers didn't have the knowledge that we have. They sat through it. But there are other black youth that are not going to sit through it. We know about Che. We know about Fannin. We've read the books of our revolution. We've listened to Mao and his quotations. We know where we stand. We're not going to sit for it. We're asking, and if we ask and we don't get, we're prepared to stand up and take it. If I ask a man, I tell a man I am hungry. I tell him I am cold. And I ask him to do something about my condition. And this man holds a loaf of bread right in front of me so I can see it, and I keep asking him, I'm begging him to please give me a slice of the loaf of bread. I am hungry. Then it is known by every psychologist that the next step in the progression is I am going to knock him upside the head and take the bread from him. I'm not going to starve to death. All we're asking, no one wants to see blood. No one likes the smell of blood. No one wants war. Anyone who's been in war doesn't want war. Everyone knows what it is to see the inside of a man's gut hanging out and see your friends die, see relatives die. No one wants to regress back to the state of mind where you have to think it's all for the cause, therefore my mother has to die, my wife has to die, my brothers and sisters have to die. No one wants that. But you're pushing us to it. You're leaving us no choice. We're asking, we're begging. The students up at Columbia, they ask. The brothers down south ask. The brothers in Latin America, the brothers in Africa, they're all asking. All they're doing is asking. Our fathers asked. Our grandfathers asked. The presidents of our universities, our colleges had to go to your back doors to beg that their children be given just enough money so that they could be taught something to live off. And yet still, they asked and asked and asked, and you refused to give them anything. Now, we're just about out of patience. We're not going to ask anymore. The news media says that it's only the young that are militant, only the young that want this and want that. Okay, but we're 40% of the black population now. Or we were a year ago, and still yet we're climbing. Before long, we'll be 50%, 55%, and then we'll have the command. We're not going to take it. We're not going to take sitting in rotten parks and in places that just aren't fit for living. We're not going to take it. There's a limit to a man's patience, and everyone knows that God, Christ, heaven, everyone knows that what we're asking is not $1 million. What we're asking for is humanity. We're asking to be allowed to live like human beings. And God, you tell us that this is too much to ask.
Now, before we end this portion here, the message that he's relaying can be confusing to a lot of people, especially a young mind. He's got that youthful energy, and there's room for more wisdom. As we age, the wisdom increases. But his energy, I feel it, and I like it. Whether I agree with or not, the passion, the seriousness with which he speaks. But what he's asking for, or saying he's asking for at the core, is the conditions to be able to basically do for oneself. This falls under the area of self-responsibility. You know, I always say, don't ask someone to do something for you that you can and should do for yourself. And by the same token, don't do anything for someone that they can and should do for themselves. That's the key words, and. Can and should do for themselves. So a lot of the stumbling blocks, the things that would prevent a man from having and doing the things that he talks about, have been removed. And it's self-responsibility to recognize what you can do and then do what you can and should do for yourself. But so many now, they don't seem to understand that concept. They want someone to give them something. These folks back in the 60s weren't asking for somebody to give them something in as much as they were asking them to take their foot off their neck and allow them to go get what they need. Right, to be a man and go out and obtain these things for myself and my family. There was a lot more roadblocks back then than there are now. Look at the laws. Look at the laws, the rule books, the company policies, everything now. there are key things that have been put in place. Yeah, bias still exists. Folks tend to want to be around or gravitate towards or want to hire somebody who looks like them. And usually that is because there's a sense of a shared belief system, culture, values, things of that nature. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not correct. But that's just the way it is, right? We can all work on some things and do a little bit better. White folks, black folks, others, everybody can do that. Human beings can do that. But the type of stumbling blocks that this young man is speaking on, they're not there anymore, which is why he can point to certain things. And a lot of people in this video can point to certain things that our youth today can't point to because they don't exist. So now you have somebody trying to make an argument based off of something that happened in the past mindset, something that doesn't exist anymore, and they don't realize how foolish that sounds. So self-responsibility. Don't ask somebody to do something for you that you can and should do for yourself. Can you do it? Are the laws and societal restrictions and things of that nature set up in such a way that you can do it? And then should you? More often than not, 99% of the time, the should part is going to be a yes, right? Now, if you take the other side of that, don't do something for someone that they can and should do for themselves. Now, just imagine you're a white guy, right? Just imagine you're a white guy and you have a black person wanting you to give them something or do something for them that they can and should do for themselves. You're violating a tenet of self-responsibility and you're harming that individual. You're weakening that individual. Now look at the political landscape in this country. Those who advocate for doing something for somebody that they can and should do for themselves are not your friends. They are your enemy, at least politically. They are harming you, handicapping you, taking away or reducing or inhibiting your ability to do things for yourself that you can and should do. End of my rant. Let's move forward.
You're sick. You're definitely sick. How can you tell me that it's too much to ask to be a human being?
Why am I mad? You know, white people ask me, why am I so angry? And, you know, I don't have any answer for him because it'd be ridiculous for me to answer him because he couldn't understand anyway, obviously, because he asked me the question.
The 400 years that I've existed there, 3 years, 3 generations within my own family, why don't you know what I'm like? What is it so new in 1968 or, in the 60s that you've got to learn? Because my grandfather was born, he's 90. My mother was ready for integration. She's middle-class Negro. Now, all of a sudden, you come to me and you say, communicate with me. Hell, I've been here all the time.
But you are the child of this middle-class Negro. Communicate with me means let's have a conversation. How can you expect somebody to know what you're thinking in your mind? Unless you have that conversation, you can't just move past that and say, why didn't you know? Why didn't you read my mind? Why didn't you assume what I'm thinking based upon what my mother might have been thinking?
Where were you? Now, what do I have to say to you? The most advanced nation in the world. It has to be resolved. It has to be resolved because I want my children to have an answer. If not me, I personally prefer that I have an answer. I don't have, I like to think I don't have my lifetime to waste on this.
Most people say, if you don't like it here, get out. That's for spineless people. Spineless bastards who don't want to fight for what they believe in. Well, I'm staying here because I was born here, and I am going to fight for my freedom. And before...
This right here hit me dead in my chest because he's right. He's absolutely right. With one difference between what he's saying and what I believe or how I feel about this, my thoughts on this. He's absolutely right. It would be cowardly to just leave, right? To run away. And where are you going to run to? And what's better than where you are? But to go even deeper, he said to fight for his rights, right? The key difference is in my thought process, my mentality is not to fight for my rights, but to fight to protect my rights. This is where we are now, right? And the 60s might have been fighting for more rights to get your rights. But guess what? We got them. Guess what? You have them. You have these rights. And now you got to fight to protect them. If you fall for the misdirection play, which the liberal side of the house would often throw out at you, they'll have you fighting for something that you already have, or think you're fighting for something that you already have, or running off on a tangent chasing something that's really, if you really evaluate it, it's not that important to you. At least not as important as they make it seem. See, they lump all these things together, and they'll have you chasing your tail or going this way, supporting something that you don't even believe in, fighting for a right that doesn't even correspond to you, that you really don't care about. If you follow that path, if you let them drop those breadcrumbs and play that game with them, we should be fighting to protect what we have, because you have it. You have it. You just got to protect it.
I have kids. I am going to make sure that this damn United States deserves the existence of my kids, because I will not rest until every Sunday school is safe for my kids, so that they won't get killed or beaten up like those kids down in Mississippi.
When is the last time you heard of kids being killed or beaten up in Sunday school or in church because they were black? We got to go back to pull from the past in order to find an example of that. But what do you see now? What have you seen recently? They weren't killed because they were black. They were killed because they were Christians. You see, the game has changed. Don't be foolish enough to think it's about the same game, the old game. This has been turned on its head. You're not the, I guess, target in that manner anymore, right? You got little white kids getting shot and beat up in church. Think about that.
In 1966, that is going to stop, or else I'll be dead. Either one. You white folks have either one of two choices. Give me my damn freedom or kill me. Because I am tired of sitting by being an Uncle Tom or a house Negro like Booth and Wilkins. Those two guys are not Negroes. They're white people with man tan. That's all. They don't speak for us. They have found their way into the white man's house, the white man's establishment, and they are not about to make waves. But I am, because I am not going to take seeing my kids walking to a newly integrated school and getting their heads whipped in by grown men. Because if that happens to my kids, there are going to be a lot of damn dead white folks, and I mean a lot, because I am not going to take this junk no more.
Wow, that's potent right there, and you can't do anything really at that point. That part of the message is really actually respected. That's a man, that's a father, willing to stand up for his family. You got to get that.
The days of step and fetch it are dead. The days of the black-faced, big, wide-eyed, gin-drinking black man are dead. Now we have what is called black consciousness.
But why is it the black?
Now, before we move forward on that, just one more thought. Those days are dead, right? But now you have a new generation trying to use that same same argument, as if they're experiencing the same thing that folks in that era may have experienced. And it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It's a misplaced argument.
People don't own the land where they live. White people own that land. We've never been taught property values. You see, we've never been taught property. I don't own Harlem, for example. Black people don't own Harlem. So who gives a damn whether Harlem burned down or not? How you gonna tell me to love this property that exploits me every day?
Because you live there.
When the average black man in Harlem works the first Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for a landlord. And on Thursday, he's working for Con Edison. And on Friday, he works for himself. And he's got the day off on Saturday, and he buys him a drink of liquor. And the minute he gets drunk, then a white policeman arrests him, takes him in a white court, and takes his money for 2 other weeks. And he goes in debts for the rest. And he goes to a white landlord, goes to a white pawn shop, or else he goes to another white loan shark to keep living on credit to pay off the white man, and he's paying taxes and profits and vacation pay.
Now, before we proceed, listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he just said about who's paying who, right? And what you quickly realize is, in his example, it's the black man paying a white man. But the truth of the matter is, that's America now. And it's not restricted to just the black. I'm not trying to invalidate anything that he said, because he makes some valid points. But it's not just black people that are going through that now. It's a class thing. It's not a racial thing anymore. It's a class thing. All right? Black folks, congratulations. We've made it and anchored ourselves into the middle class. By and large, a lot of black folks have done that, right? But if you look around, you'll see that class is populated by members of all races. And guess what? They're all going through the same thing, right? They all are paying. And most folks don't own any part of their community or within their community. This is owned by big corporations and things of that nature. And while I'm on that point, I think it's important to note, right? When you talk about a black-owned business, and you talk about a successful black-owned business, if you want to grow your business to the size of, name any large business in your area, a chain or multiple locations, right? Anything publicly owned. Think about this for a second. Say you start a restaurant, and the food is so good that everybody likes it. Not just 13% of the population, black folks, but everybody likes to eat there. That's the way you're going to be successful. If you're dependent upon the black folks, 13% of the population to keep you in business, you're not going to grow beyond a certain point. More than likely, you're going to kind of stay small. And if you do grow, other people are going to want to eat at your establishment. I know you're not going to be racist and say this is for black folks only. So you get to that point and you're growing your business, and it's booming, and you own it, right? And then at that point where you want to get larger than a certain size and you want to go public because you need access to capital to grow your business. And since your food is so good, and since your numbers look so great, and since your business is doing so well, and the public looks at this and says this is a great opportunity to invest in this business, and you offer it publicly, there's an IPO. Guess what happens? The next day, it's no longer a black-owned business. It's a public company, publicly traded company now, right? And guess who the majority of the public is? Guess who the majority of the public is not? Guess what they all see? Guess what race or what color they're all focused on? Green. And now you're in the money, right? The issue is that it's no longer black-owned. Just like a lot of businesses are no longer really white-owned per se. I mean, white population is the majority of the population, but a lot of them become publicly owned. And at that point, you lose that hold on it. And it'll take some time to dissipate and kind of fall off. And just some great marketing behind it, you know. We use some down-home Negro seasonings and stuff. We use that in the marketing right, in order to promote that business or whatnot. But at the heart, it'll be a publicly owned company, and that probably would be a good thing. It's just that you may not have control over what it looks like as much anymore. I think that's part of the reason why you don't see black-owned businesses, for the most part, go beyond a certain size. Take BET, for example, Black Entertainment Television. Look it up. See who owns it. Might find it pretty interesting. Let's proceed.
White people. The average black man ain't got nothing to lose by anything that he does. And this is what the white man better understand. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Simple. That's ABC. Or it's 1, 2, 3, any way you go. There's no need asking me why these black people burning down these buildings out here. Hell, they got a positive answer. People are not as dumb as people would think. With all the brilliant white psychiatrists and psychologists, you've been able to find a damn path to the moon, but you ain't been able to find one goddamn path 1 mile up the street. Maybe you better take time with this all this unique ability to find all these scientific discoveries that you've got to learn how to find your way into men's hearts, into men's minds.
Let me put it to you this way. We are proud of being black and of our black heritage. But white America does not accept the concept that this is a multiracial society. It has never accepted the fact that there are black people, brown people, yellow people here alongside them. They've always looked upon America as being white. And hence, all of its propaganda is directed at us to convince us that somehow or the other we must become white before they will accept us.
The problem is the standard for discussion is set by the whites. And a lot of Negroes now don't want to accept that standard anymore. They say, we're going to have our own standard. I think that the hookup comes if you can develop a whole new standard where whites and Negroes can have dialogue. Not either one of those are acceptable anymore. I mean, whites aren't going to accept Negro standards, and Negroes no longer want to be white. So that clear thing is to develop a whole new standard, and then everybody move toward that so there can be some kind of dialogue.
See, now, he's talking about standards, right? Listen to how he speaks. This is what gets me. Listen to how articulate this young man is. Listen to the obvious intelligence behind that. Look at how he portrays himself. Look at the class. Look at the dignity, right? And I'll throw this in here because I think this is a pretty interesting aside. If you look at linguistics, if you look at language here in the United States of America, if you look how black people spoke during this time frame, or at least the ones that you see here, how they're speaking, right? It alludes to a certain standard, right? A certain class of folks, the way they carry themselves, the way that they speak. And if you listen to what some folks call ebonics, you listen to slang, the slang terminology, and now it's increased over time because people have gotten more inventive and creative with certain things. But if you look at it at its base, what sounds like when folks say that it sounds like a black person talking, it's interesting because I watched a video the other day, and there was a white man from the South talking, and all through the comment section, everybody was saying, he sounds black. But does he though? Or does he sound like a low-class white guy? I would argue, I now offer to you, that what a lot of people think is talking black is actually talking or speaking like a low-class white person, ignorant. Why do I say that? Because throughout American history, a large portion of the black population has emulated, beginning in slavery, learning to talk like those folks who were in your class. And being at the bottom, a lot of black folks learned to talk or speak English like low-class white folks. Interesting, huh? Look it up.
You know, from a child up, I always, at first, I wanted to be white, you know, because my family was 20 of us, 6 girls, 14 boys. We would make 50 and 60 bales of cotton, gather all that cotton, and we wouldn't have food in the wintertime. So I figured then the white people must be right. But as I got older, I said, no, there's something wrong. And if I ever get a chance, I'm going to do something about it. I'm thinking about in terms of a better and a greater world for all people. And we can't do that by me in one corner doing what I can do to hurt you and you in the other corner doing the same thing against me.
So you go ahead and vote. So what? So you vote for a senator. And the senator's constituency is either lobbyists who represent big business or lobbyists who represent himself. So what? So you can vote.
There's been a lot of talk and a lot of shuffling of papers. But in terms of the plight of the black man in this country, there's been no perceptible change. Primarily because the white man has no reason to. He enjoys the highest standards of living. His government enjoys dominance in world affairs. Why should he turn to me now and say, I want to share part of my good fortune with you? He has no reason to.
I think there's going to be violence, see, because there already has been. I mean, when people try to free themselves, they kill Negroes in the South all the time. The Negro man has been emasculated and destroyed by the fact that every time he stood up, he got just snuffed out right there.
All right, I got to interject again here. All right, where do you see that happening now? Right, where do you see the emasculation happening? Who's emasculating young black men? Show me the white man, and I'm speaking in terms of the era that we're speaking from or comparing to. Show me the white man that is going around emasculating Negroes. Who is it that's telling a man that it's not good to be a man? Who is it that's telling men it's not good to be masculine? Is it the white man telling the black man this or trying to emasculate the black man? Is that what you see happening around you? And if you do see a white man trying to emasculate other men, not just black men, look at his political alignment. See where he stands. Then come back and tell me what you find.
So I don't think there's any question but that there's going to be violence and brutality. But my attitude is that the brutality and the violence shouldn't become the reason that you want to be free. But that's a very personal thing, the freedom is. See, the question isn't what is freedom to me, it's what price freedom. Because sometimes the price that you pay for freedom is the very thing that makes you a slave again. That's what I think happened in Russia in 1917. But I know that there's going to be violence. I mean,
my God, listen to this young man. Listen to this young man. Oh, my goodness.
I think it gets blurred, especially the individuals. I face you violently. See, who knows where that violence began? See, I mean, I might, if I face you with a gun and I got orders to kill you and you got orders to kill me, then we can't really deal with each other. Well, you're a target and I'm a target. So you can't really talk about that. But you can talk about the larger thing, the much more universal thing, the reason that you're there. See, is really not to kill, but to free.
Let us take a look at Harlem, 1964, when approximately 20 Molotov cocktails were exploded in Harlem. And in 1965, in August, in Watts, Los Angeles, 2,000 Molotov cocktails were exploded. I think that we are developing a more sophistication, and I think in the next uprising, and I suspect it will probably come either in Washington, D.C. or in another unnamed city, where you're going to find 5,000 Molotov cocktails used.
On my way to Washington, feeling mighty sad, thinking about an income that I never had. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this government bill, we all go down in jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Black man picked the cotton long time ago. He's been the victim since brought him to the show. Black man dug the ditches, hewed down the pines, gave the trouble to Jesus, kept on towing the line. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this movement fails, we all go out in jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Black man dug the pipelines, both night and day.
work. What a white man got to pay. Now look at here, son. This is a brand new day. No more full-time work. No more part-time pay. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this movement fails, we all go down in jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Yeah. I want my share of silver. I want my share of gold. Want my share of justice. Kill my dying soul. Black men dug the ditches long time ago. He has been the victim since brought him to this show. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this movement fails, we all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live.
Wanted to share that with you all. Made that comparison between the 60s and 2025. And look at the arguments. Look what people were asking for. Look at the validity of it. Listen, look at how much it makes sense. And what you'll find is that a lot of what is talked about now, a lot of what's driving the politics in the United States of America is manufactured. It's not real. It doesn't exist. At least it doesn't exist anymore. So they try to drive politics based on past grievances. Meanwhile, they handicap young folks, keep them mentally enslaved. And most of them, the ones that are enslaved, feel like to think any other way would be some type of betrayal. They would be betraying their skin. It's very scary, very scary. Love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Till next time, take care of yourself. Peace.